Hey YouTube, what's going on? Welcome to part 10. It's been a while. We have been working on Framework for quite some time and it's coming along pretty nicely. So today I decided to go ahead and show you how to implement the driver manager to make our life even easier. If you remember in the previous video, part 9, we have created a little test where we created a driver here, and then we also created um, instance of the ADB, and then we utilize that instance and everything else from a framework like UI selector later on. But we had to create this part manually, and instead of creating this manually, we should just call something like, like driver manager create driver, and that's it. And we should not need to say this at all. Okay, so today we are going to try to work to that solution, and let's go ahead and start by going to the driver manager, and we're going to create a couple of private variables here, and they're all going to be static. We're going to create a hash map, and this hash map is going to hold a string and a URL, and we'll just call it hosts, and it's going to be null by default. And then our next variable is going to hold a string, and that's going to be our unlock app. So we're going to call it unlock package, and that's our standard Appium unlock package. It's io appium.unlock. That's the app that we passing into our caps over here. That's the package ID of that app. So let's create our first method, and this method is going to, it's going to be private. Basically everything in this class is pretty much going to be private except for two methods. So this one is going to be static as well, because our public method is also going to be static. So, but in a public method, we're going to be referencing some of this private methods, so this private methods have to be static as well. So this one is going to return desired capabilities, and let's say get caps, and we are going to pass in a string parameter in here, which is going to be device ID. Okay, and then we're gonna say just create a log to make sure we know what our app is doing. So let's say creating driver caps for device, and just pass in the device ID in here. And then we're going to declare our desired capabilities. So our caps equals new desired caps. And then let's say caps set capability to, or for device name, and that's going to be our device ID. And then just going to copy this for device name, and then platform name, and that's going to be Android. Okay, and then our app, and our app is going to be taken from, actually let's create, well, doesn't matter, we can go to our runner and copy the location of our app right here and just paste it in here. Your location might be different, so make sure to double check this. And then once we're done with this, we're going to return a caps. And then the next method we're going to do is also going to be private, static, and this one is going to return our host URL to us. So we're going to say host, and we're going to pass in device ID that we want to get the host for. And then we're going to say if our hash map of if our hosts hash map is null, then we have to create it. But if it's not, then we're going to return hosts get device ID. Okay, but let's cover this use case. If it is null, we're going to create new hash map, and we're going to say hosts put. This is where we're going to put a device ID that we need to handle, right? So if I go to my runner here, this is the device that I'm using. So I'm gonna put that device ID in here, and then I'm gonna create a new value that I'm going to return, or that's going to be linked to that key. Okay, and the value that's going to be linked to that key is the URL, this URL. Okay, and basically if you have more devices that you may be using, you can just copy and paste and change the device ID to whichever device ID you have, and if you are not planning on running your tests in parallel at the same time, then you don't need to change this. But if you're planning to run tests in parallel, meaning if you going to be calling this framework and creating a new instance of Java JVM for each device, then you need to change the IP, and then you need to change the port as well, okay, to make sure that this device is going to be running on a separate server versus this device, because you cannot run two devices on the same Appium server. But that's only if you're going to be running tests in parallel. Okay. Because I have only one device, so I'm just going to leave it like this. And let's go to our next method, which is going to be also private, static, and this one is going to return an array list of strings to us, and it's going to be called get available devices. And let's import array list. So let's log some info in here so we know what our app is doing here. So we're going to say checking for available devices, and then let's create another array list that's also going to, well, basically this is the array list that's going to hold our value of strings. So it's going to be, we're going to call it available devices, and it's going to be new array list. Okay, and then let's create another array list that's going to hold our connected devices, and we're going to be using our ADB to get our connected devices. And then what we're going to do, we're going to loop through each connected device and connected devices, and then we're going to say string. Actually, let's do it this way. We are going to create, or we need to check which apps are installed on the device, because we only want to create a device if it's not under testing to begin with. And how do we know if we are running any tests on the device? Well, we can check if this package is currently installed on the device. So meaning if this package is installed on the device, we can sort of safely assume that something is going on with the device. Some tests are running because the driver should be created. If this app installed, then we probably created a driver, right? Because this is the app that we pass in here in the caps. So in that case, we don't want to use this device if it already has this app installed, because it's probably already running some tests. So we need to move on to the next one. But if it does not have this package installed, then we want to, we can assume that that device is free and we can use it to create a new driver. So that's what that the kind of logic we are creating here. The get available devices will return the devices to us that don't have this package installed. So first thing we did, we created a variable to hold our available devices value, which is at the moment doesn't have anything in there. And then we created connected devices, and then we use ADB to get the connected devices, and then we're gonna loop through each connected device and check whether or not it has the apps installed. So let's create string, call it device, and this is going to be equal to our connected device to string, and then we can say array list, and this is going to hold our apps, and we're going to create new ADB instance for this device, and we're going to get installed packages, and then we're going to say if apps contains unlock package, or if it doesn't, if it doesn't contain unlock package, then we're gonna add this to our available devices. Okay, add this device to our available devices, and else we're gonna say my logger, just get some info out here so we know if the device was skipped, that it was skipped because it was already under testing. So we're gonna say device has let's just use the unlock package installed, and we can say assuming it is under testing. Okay. Then we're gonna say if we did not find any available devices, so we're gonna check the size of our array list here, and if the size equal to 0, then there is no reason to proceed any further, so we can throw a runtime exception and say not a single device is available for testing at this time. And we're going to return our available devices otherwise. So what we need to create now is the method that's going to create our driver, right? So we can go ahead and this is going to be the public method, one of the public methods. So we're going to say public static void, and we're going to call it create driver, and it's not going to take any arguments, so just leave the arguments blank, and we're going to say I'm going to create an array list, and it's going to hold string. This is going to be our devices from get available devices method, and then we are also going to loop through this devices. Now we're going to do a for loop device in devices, and then we're going to check. Well, actually, if I do the try, let's log something to the screen and just make sure it's info. And we're going to say trying to create new driver. Okay, trying to create new driver for device, and let's just add our device in here. And then what we're going to do, we're going to say Android driver equals new Android driver, and we're going to use our hosts. So we're going to call our host, and we're gonna pass in device that we're interested in, and then we also gonna call on our caps, and we're gonna pass in the device that we're interested in. Okay, and then add this exception to the signature. And then the next thing we need to do is add ADB instance to our driver or to our Android class. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to our Android class and create a new public static variable, and that's gonna be our ADB. Remember that our Android class is a central hub where we reference everything else in our framework. So that's why we're creating ADB instance here. And let's go back to our driver, and now we have assigned our driver, and now we're going to assign ADB for this particular device. And then we are going to break. If that was successful, we are going to break. But now our for loop does not loop through, right? Because we just break. We did this, and then we break. What's the point of the for loop? Well, let's say we have multiple devices connected, and for some reason the driver creation failed for this device. Well, let's, not to stop our framework, we're gonna give it the ability to go ahead and try on the next device at that point. So we're gonna catch whatever exception we got here. We're gonna print it out and basically ignore it. So this is ignore and try next device. But we print this out just to make sure we know that there was some problem here and what the problem was if you look at the logs. So that's it for the create driver method. Now let's create another public static void, and this is going to be kill a driver. And basically we are going to say if Android driver does not equal null, then we're going to do this, and then else if it's null, we're gonna log info out here to say Android driver is not initialized, nothing to kill. You can do something like this, and then let's log some info in here as well. Say killing Android driver. And then what we're gonna say, Android driver, and we're gonna do quit. And then also one last thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna use ADB to uninstall our app, right? Our unlock package. Because once we kill the driver, we need to make sure that our device is returned to the proper state, because if we were to loop our framework, per se, that's just an example, if you wanted to run multiple tests in a loop and using same device, that we want to make sure that when we shut down, when we're done, we clean the device. So unlock package is not there anymore. Okay, I think that's it. So if we go to our runner at this point, over here, let's try to run this test with the new implementation. So what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna delete this, and I'm going to call my driver manager, and I'm gonna say create driver, and then over here now I can use my Android ADB. Okay, so I'm gonna say Android ADB open apps activity. So let's run this and see what happens. Let's go ahead and start our Appium server. Okay, Appium server started. Now, oh, actually, you know what? It would be nice if I started my Mobizen app as well, huh? Yeah, let's see if we can connect. Okay. So let's see, we're gonna run the same test. Let's go ahead and start the test. So we're checking for available devices, and then it found this device connected, and now it's trying to create the driver for that device. Okay. And we don't see any more logs because we have info level. Info level is the only one that's enabled right now, so we only see limited number of logs. Well, that's cool. This is a bit more readable, right? This much less code. I mean, yeah, we did invest some time into creating this method, but we were able to make our test, which, you know, this was our test, a little bit more readable now, right? So now we create driver and then we run through our selectors and click buttons and then get the info. So in the next video, we're going to start working on our API. Okay, gonna start creating API, and then once the API is created, we're gonna write some tests and take it from there. More interesting videos are coming up, guys. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching and take care. Make sure to like the video as well. So take care, guys.